born and where do you live now?
I am from Iraq, but I was born in Turkey because my father was a diplomat. I was born in Ankara. We lived in Jordan for a little while, went back to Baghdad, and then my father was transferred to Vienna, Austria, Stockholm in Sweden, and then back to Baghdad. And now I live in Omaha, Nebraska.
When and why did you immigrate to the US? Did you visit USA before you decided to immigrate to the United States?
I arrived in the United States in 2010, in August 2010, and I came here as a refugee after the 2003 war.
Were you ever in a camp?
No, I was at home. Following the war, private schools were allowed to open again, because we were under dictatorship before that and there were no private schools. After that, I was an English teacher in a private school, and then I worked with USAID organization. So it's an American aid organization in Baghdad. And that led to my family being threatened, and it was not safe to stay anymore in Iraq. I had not visited the United States before, but I had attended an American school.
How old were you when you started to learn English?
I was 6 years old. I first learned Turkish and Arabic because we were in Turkey, and as a toddler, I started speaking Turkish with the nanny and Arabic with my mom. But there's no practice. I forgot all of that. I know only a few words in Turkish. I went to the English school in Vienna, and then I attended the Anglo-American school in Sweden. The schools I went to in Iraq after we returned had an English section, but my parents preferred that I not go to the English section. I went to the Arabic section.
You have been speaking English for your entire life, almost your entire life. Is there still a word that is difficult for you to pronounce in English?
Yes, there are many words that are hard. Vulnerable, I can never say it right. Colonel, like I would say colonel. Worcestershire sauce, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's the hardest.
Well, I don't know that word that you just said.
In the Mary Poppins movie, I looked it up. It is a word. So
you came here in 2010. You were already familiar with the outside world. However, what impressed you the most when you came to the United States?
I was impressed by the skyscrapers in Chicago because I haven't seen that even in Europe. When I came to Omaha, the streets were so spacious and wide and relaxing because compared to Baghdad, the traffic was like heaven. I was impressed with how hardworking people are, how they sleep early, and I didn't expect that. I thought people were partying all the time, but even students are very hardworking. They're independent at an early age, and when I taught at UNO, I would see students who are like really tired from work and they were sleeping, before class and things like that. When I visited New York, in my mind, it reminded me a lot of Baghdad because it was alive. In Baghdad, it's the same. The restaurants, the shops, they stay as long as they want, and people are walking in the streets. Whereas here, 7 or 8 o'clock, everybody is closed and at home.
Why did you come to Omaha?
My brother and his family were in Omaha before us. It's a strange country, a strange place for me, so it's better to go to a place where you have family. Yes, my brother lives here.
And you have your children here too, right?
Yes, I have 3 children.
And how about you? What do you do now here in Omaha?
I am the Arabic bilingual liaison for Omaha Public Schools. I serve the Arabic-speaking families whose children are students at OPS, especially, when they are newcomers. they need a lot of help and guidance, and I help with parent-teacher conferences and interpretation, translate letters.
Now you are with OPS, but you refer to UNO, which is University of Nebraska at Omaha. What were you doing there?
I taught Arabic at UNO for 8 years to non-Arabic speakers. So they were American students or students from Arabic origin who want to refresh their information, or they were born here and they want to practice Islam and they need to know Arabic and things like that.
As a teacher, if you could give an advice to a family that just relocated to the United States or is contemplating to come to the United States, what would your advice be in terms of the English language?
My advice would be to start learning English as soon as possible at the first opportunity. And learning English doesn't always mean going to an ESL class. Of course, that is very useful, but you can learn if you start a job, because you'll be forced to speak, you know.
If someone is discouraged and says, I will never be able to learn this English, have you encountered this, and how do you address this situation?
I have seen that a lot. Sometimes people feel overwhelmed and discouraged and find it very hard, especially the older you are. It's harder to learn a language, but I found the American people are very understanding of that. As long as they understand what you mean, they understand the context, they don't really care about the sentence structure or if you pronounced a word not very accurately. No one will point it out or something.
What was the hardest thing to adjust to when you moved to the United States?
Well, it's a whole new lifestyle. So adjusting was hard at times because I wasn't very young when I arrived. Driving in the snow, I never got used to that. Wearing my seat belt all the time. At the beginning, I kind of didn't want to adjust, but you know, because I'm not used to and sitting in the car freely. Living in a small apartment at the beginning, like for 4 years, we lived in a small apartment on the 3rd floor with no yard. And in Baghdad, we have bigger houses and gardens and, you know.
Did you know how to drive when you came to the United States?
I did, but the rules are different. So I had to kind of practice and take the test.
What is your highest achievement here in the United States?
I don't know if I'd call it an achievement, but my job at OPS is very rewarding because I have the opportunity to work with families from the refugee community and help them with my experience. Many parents don't speak English, and many parents are illiterate even in their own languages, but we do our best to help them. And my other rewarding experience was teaching Arabic to American students. I just felt proud and happy when they started learning how to read and write.
What would you have done differently, and what would be your advice to a person that is planning to immigrate to the United States?
I don't know if I would have done anything differently, but it's the small things. I would advise anyone who is coming not to pack clothes, because we brought clothes with us thinking we're gonna need them as soon as we arrive, but we found clothes in America are very affordable. And I would advise anyone to bring the family album or things that are valued in the family, or special presents from family members, things like that, because they will be valuable when you settle down and have your home. And everything will come. You can buy everything here, but there are things that are irreplaceable.
Do you feel you have been embraced and welcomed by the community?
Yes, the community was very friendly and welcoming. I made a lot of friends at work and out of work.
Do you get to go back to Baghdad? Do you still have family in Baghdad?
I don't have immediate family in Baghdad. I have two sisters living in Amman, Jordan, and my brother is here. My parents passed away. I have relatives in Baghdad.
But the ties are not as strong as
Not
before.
as strong, yeah, and it's always risky to go back. I would love to go and visit. I miss Baghdad a lot, but there's never a good time. There's always something going on and it's still not stable.
So you haven't been able to visit Baghdad for the past 10 years?
I have not, yeah.
Does it hurt?
Very much. When I first arrived, I was counting my money to go back, and I said, we're not staying. It was very hard for me. I went through a period of, it was like grieving for my country, grieving for my past life. So I'll give this a try, I'll stay a few months, and then you get involved in life, and we started working, and my children went to school and my daughter got married, so it became harder and harder to think of going home. And the situation at home never got any safer or easier.
Yet, when you refer to yourself, do you refer to yourself as American, Iraqi, or Iraqi American?
I would say Iraqi American. The first thing I was worried about when I immigrated was losing my identity, and I was determined not to change. I'm not gonna change. You know, I was afraid to open up to the community. But then I found out that you will not lose your identity, you will just add to it. We still have our own culture, we still have our food and music and decoration at home and things that we will never lose.
Do you guys get together and celebrate often?
Of course, yes. I have a group of Iraqi women who are my best friends now, and we get together every week or every 2 weeks at the longest, and either we meet at one of our houses or at a restaurant we eat out, and we have a WhatsApp group that we're on it, during the day talking to each other.
Do you drink coffee?
We drink Turkish coffee, and I have little Turkish coffee cups at work, and the little pot, and my colleagues all got hooked on Turkish coffee now.
And you can buy Turkish coffee here in Omaha?
Yes. There is a very nice, we call it the Arabic store. It's called the European Mediterranean store. It's an amazing store, and you can find everything there.
Do you think immigrating to the United States was the right decision, and why?
I didn't have that much of a choice. I was almost forced to come because it wasn't safe to stay in Baghdad anymore. I didn't want to move out of Iraq. I had a good job with USAID, and my children were doing well in school, and it was very hard for me to come. But now, and after 10 years, and after how things turned out, everyone's doing well and my children are happy. Yes, it was the right decision.
Do your children refer to themselves as Iraqi or as Americans?
Iraqi Americans.